It was the summer of '99, a time when people could just marvel at the fact that people could receive phone calls on something that was in their pocket. I woke up in Tennessee, or at least that's what my GPS told me when I arrived at the Myrna Airport, which I think is a rather innocuous name for a place that is going to alter one's way of looking at the world irreparably. I had to join a planning team in an event, which I got late because of some reasons, though I was assigned as a person to oversee a very large event. I was busy and stressed at work and wanted to get a start on things by not calling the hotel in advance to sort everything out, which had been fixed. However, what I found at Myrna Airport was just the opposite. Signal strength was low, and lifting our eyes to the adjacent hills gave the impression of the signals being enclosed by the towering peaks. The hotel, which is located inside the airport environment, initially disguised its actions as being orderly. However, as I registered my arrival, I felt that the environment was somewhat unwelcoming, even though no one was being openly rude nor manifested any outward hostility. My room, however, destroyed any image of normalcy or control I may have been trying to convey. It was being told to me that some renovations were being done, but I did not expect what came across my sight. The thick air was close, and the room was saturated with an irritable, sinister energy. The mattress was soft with prolonged use, and the old CRT television made uneven patterns of light that stretched across the walls. Ignoring the feeling of discomfort I had, I too unpacked just a bit, anticipating sleep, since I had an early morning presentation to give. That night, sleep was never within reach. Ghastly noises could be heard, clicking, as it were, previously unheard sounds like voices one hears in the wind that creeps in through recessed windows. Around 2:15 a.m., not able to take the eerie sight any longer, I dialed the front desk number. Indeed, they quickly followed my complaint by sending 2 maintenance men and an entirely outlandishly dressed maid. Some of the men complained when they dragged out an old mattress and television set, and the maid, dressed in plain sweats, observed the process without a word. Watching the change in the room, a sinister idea came over me. All the hotel employees behaved quite mysteriously, as if they were threatened by some kind of gag order. The maid looked ashamed, a hint of tearful request for empathy in her eyes, while the maintenance men grumbled and occasionally glanced around nervously, as if expecting something ominous to leap out at them from the shadows. I say this because, in between some of the starkier moments that left me a touch uneasy, I noticed a flickering of something, a peculiar shade of nothingness, where there should be no one in sight, a shape of something ethereal that makes no sense at all. The cold feeling of dread enveloped my heart, but outside I had to fake confidence as the unknown figure lingered just outside the door to the bathroom. After the job was complete, I gave each hardworking man what I hoped would be enough to cover the embarrassment I felt in providing tips. Thus the men went away with those simple bows of recognition, and I was left alone with the maid, who stood in the doorway, her eyes beseeching but her expression passive. Taking the tip with a deep breath and numbly touching my hand for a brief second, she made my spine tingle with coldness. Silently, she slipped away into the darkness, and I was left to try to make sense of the night. The next morning, as dawn spread its foggy light over Tennessee hills, I hastily packed my things, determined to leave the heavy and unwelcome energy of Myrna Airport Hotel behind me. As a hotel, it looked quite normal in the early morning, with people hurrying about their business. But somehow, I felt that I was being observed, that people were hiding behind the doors and were watching me. It was one of the worst experiences that I have ever encountered years ago in Myrna Airport Hotel. These memories of my bad experience always followed me like a ghost. The feeling of curiosity, the effect of which was magnified by fear, would not let go of me. I wanted to know more, to find a way to end the strange, otherworldly events that took place in that dark house. Despite my better senses, I had again landed in Tennessee for another official purpose. What could be more ominous than fate that had again drawn me to this place where I had met her once before? This time, I decided to stay in the more distant hotel, away from Myrna Airport, to leave behind the horrors of the previous night. But the destiny had a different plan. Sometimes curiosity overpowers the discretion, and one day, I decided to drive back to Myrna Airport Hotel. The appearance of the airport and the hotel situated next to it was quite recognizable. Thinking about it made me shiver. I parked the car and walked into the lobby, which was as if in some sort of time warp. The receptionist kindly nodded to me, although she had no inkling of the storm that was rising in my mind. "Can I help you, sir?" she inquired, her voice reverberating in the calmness of the lobby. I used to stay here years ago," I sputtered, forcing myself to calm down. "All she ever wanted was to check whether something had changed." Her smile dipped slightly as a fleeting look of discomfort washed over her face. "They have changed, yes, but some things are still there, right?" She paused for a moment, as if she was thinking hard about what to say. "And some things stay the same." I had a queasy feeling in my stomach as I got into the lift, to get to the floor I was on when I was a child. The passage was darkened, and the only thing I could hear was the sound of my own heart. Each movement echoed loneliness and terror, two things that I once knew all too well. As I stood in front of the door of my old room, I hesitated. Recollections of that sleepless night came to his mind. Strange sounds, the impression of someone's presence, and meeting a silent girl. My lips were clenched together. I breathed in deeply and then inserted the key card and entered the room. On the surface, the room appeared to be normal, devoid of the evil aura that had pervaded the place before. I slowly opened the door and stepped into the room with an equal amount of fear. Have I dreamt all of it all those years ago? Was it all a dream caused by weak and exhausted eyes? When I was checking the room, a sudden cold wind penetrated through the room, and a chill ran down my spine. There, on the edge of my vision, I could see the flicker of shadows, fire, and smoke. This made the air electric. It was as if the building itself had things to say and things to hide. Suddenly, a whisper, a soft voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once.
"You return,"
it whispered, almost inaudibly, but its tone was terrifying to the bone. I turned around quickly to the sound of the voice, but there was no one there. I felt a shiver run down my spine as I understood that the shadow had not diminished over the years. It demanded more attention and more respect. Suddenly, the television came on, and the screen was filled with white noise. Pictures appeared, a brief image of the old CRT television, the maid in her unexciting uniform, and the personnel who complained as they shifted the mattress. The scenes intertwined, shifting from the past to the present and back again in a dizzying vortex. I tried to move, to run away, and I ended up falling over my own feet in my bed to get out. A sudden feeling of entrapment washed over me, and the walls of the room appeared to grow closer, as if to suffocate me. The temperature dropped. Fear enveloped me like a cold, tight grip around my heart. My hand shook as I tried to reach for the phone, to call for assistance, but the phone was lifeless in my hand. The StarTAC flip phone, once my tried and true companion, now a useless piece of plastic, laughed at my failed attempts at communicating with the outside world. As quickly as it had appeared, the spirit seemed to opt out of the picture. The television screen turned off, and the static disappeared into the silence. The room went black to its normal state, as if that incident never occurred. Choking for air, I stumbled out of the room and out of the hotel in a mix of adrenaline and panic. I still laugh at this in my head, but shiver at this thought as a man comes to me to replace the bad mattress in his room. I nod at him, while maintaining a frown on my face.